90% of our daily behaviour, activities and habits. And it's like, I imagine it like having a tape player or a number of tape players in my subconscious. They are there all the time. And that is why you can hear something, smell something, see something that triggers you right back in, because a relevant memory will just come into your being. Okay? Many of the negative programs are imprinted in the first 6 years of life. Have you heard that saying, give me a boy of 7 and I'll show you the man? That's why. Because up until that point, our brain activity is very different to what we're in after that age. We're in delta and theta. And so we don't have the ability to process what's going on. We just make it mean something. We see that, okay, and we make it mean something. We can't go... or we don't tend to say, okay, well, mum and dad are arguing, so they're just having a bad day. No, we make it mean something. And that's why we really need to get back to that. That being said, I've had to, with clients, I've actually gone back to even in utero, and like I said before, in spirit and past lives, that we've been able to clear stuff. It's quite phenomenal. Okay, eventually when these negative programs cause enough stress, the body will try to adapt at a chemical, hormonal, cellular and DNA level. We have this presumption that when we are born with a certain DNA, and that's it, that's how we are. No, when we have traumatic events, our DNA absolutely changes at that level. And doing this energetic healing work, your DNA will actually be changed. And there is evidence to support that. Again, Bruce Lipton talks about that, and Dawson Church as well. Okay, and I'll just tell you one phenomenon that Bruce Lipton does say, just to, with breast cancer, there's a lot of fear about, there's a familial history. With breast cancer, it's all genetic. What Bruce Lipton says is, if a family has that familial breast cancer gene in their family, if they adopted a child into that family, that child is just as likely to get that breast cancer because of the energy of the family. It's not to do with the DNA, okay? Because their DNA is changing because of the energy that they've been brought into. Okay. When this happens, you can develop a physical or psychological disease. Matrix reimprinting changes these images. Psychological disease, bipolar disorder, you will be told that is not curable or healable. Okay, I know of 2 cases where matrix reimprinting has been used, where 2 ladies now no longer have bipolar disorder. On a cellular level, these pictures are real-life memories happening now. One thing about Matrix is, when you do this role play, when my client imagine stepping into the picture with these echoes, these little children are real-life human beings, to the point where if you step in there and there's a teenager there, I'm not talking to you, I'm a teenager. Okay? Also to the point that if the person is English speaking now, but was talking a foreign language like French or whatever at the time, when my client steps in there, they've actually got to talk in French because the child doesn't understand, because that's not what they spoke at the time. It's really quite amazing. Memories are only memories to the conscious mind, to the unconscious mind and heart. They are current events. And what are your specific current events that are keeping you from healing? The replacement of these pictures creates a permanent healing effect. And that's what Matrix does too. When you go in there and take away the trauma and the belief, the negative belief, and reinforce it with a positive, then you get a permanent healing effect. And people say to me, but is that memory going to change back from that positive? No, it's not. It's permanently dealt with because there's no attachment, there's no belief attached to that. Okay, so the purpose is to release the trauma. So in the process of Matrix, the purpose is to release the trauma, okay? The freeze response is massive. I cannot tell you how massive that is. There was a lady I worked with in England who had an frozen water addiction. She was eating 2 kilos of ice a day. What it boiled down to was she actually had a split personality come on, which was fascinating in itself. But she had a freeze response. Every time she went to a particular memory when she was 9 years old, she couldn't see what happened. And so what happened was we actually got there, tapped away the freeze response, and she just went, oh, I can see what happened now. Okay. What happened from there on in? She had no addiction to ice because there was no freeze response there. So, you know the saying, like, to get resolution, you're going to be drawn to stuff that will give you resolution, okay? That's why, because she, in her core, felt this freeze response, but she needed to eat ice to constantly get resolution. Of course, that wasn't doing anything for her, but just going in and doing the work and clearing the trauma, and I won't go into the trauma that she had, was enough to then stop that. Okay. So, the purpose is to release the trauma by tapping on our echo in the memory. And what we need to do too is quite often when we have traumas is we didn't have any resources or strategies at the time. Okay, so when we step into the picture, we're talking to our echo and saying, what did you need at that time? And they will come up with something. It's really amazing. Okay, and it'll be very relevant to the age as well. Okay, and also, of course, directly changing the belief that they had at the time. Be it, I'm not good enough, I'm not wanted, I'm alone and isolated. All those beliefs, you've all got a form, yeah? There, with all the different belief systems. Okay. Metamedicine. Okay. Metamedicine is a science, okay, and I use this a lot. I don't really know how I'd do without it, to be quite honest, because if somebody comes to me with a physical ailment, such as chronic fatigue syndrome, an eczema, a kidney problem, a thyroid problem, I'm automatically got the knowledge of this is the type of trauma I'm looking for, okay, and it's never failed me. So with metamedicine, like I say, it's not a therapy, it is a science. It's the science of locating the type of belief linked to a specific disease. Okay? So with an eczema, and I had a client that came to me with eczema, we worked on the fact that they had a separation conflict, separated. And this can happen, even as early as childhood where I'll tell you my story actually. When I went to primary school, I was screaming the place down. My mum had to leave, of course. I developed severe eczema on my hands, which now, looking back on that, was a separation conflict from my mum, and I was trying to hold on. Okay? I know somebody else who has eczema on their elbows. They have separation from their mum, even as a 20-year-old. When they go away, they feel separated, and they develop eczema because they're trying to hold on to mum. Okay. Kidneys, isolation and abandonment issues. I'm looking for that. Okay. Thyroid, powerlessness, and not able to get things right. Never quite getting things right as well. So powerful tool, medicine. If you want to talk to me, I could stand here literally for 2 days and talk to you about that. It's just absolutely fascinating. But if you want to talk to me more about that, then come and see me at the back of the room. Okay, so negative beliefs are based on past big T or little t traumas. In current similar situations, we feel the energy, like I was saying, or information of the previous events. What you're dealing with now is exactly what the feeling, the energy of, is what you were feeling back then. Okay, and we've got a really good technique of getting back to those events as well. We're using the energy. It can cause us to misinterpret our current circumstances as threatening. Okay, the world is a dangerous place. If somebody has that belief, they're going to be hypervigilant, aren't they? Because you need to be on alert, okay? On a biological level, the consequences of that are when you're on high alert and you're in flight, You don't need to think in that situation. So if you know somebody who's constantly da-da-da and they can't focus, it's because they don't need the thinking. The blood supply to the frontal lobe isn't as efficient as it normally would be, because you don't need to think, you just need to act. You need to get out of the situation. Okay, so that is a massive one for people, and if somebody comes to me with that, I'm always looking at getting rid of that first before. And I mean, of course, I'm going to deal with what they want to, but I'm suggesting that while you're in fight and flight and your frontal lobe's not thinking properly, let's just disappear that, and then we can get on with whatever else is going on for you. But the thing is, in that situation, everything is going to be a threat, isn't it? So it doesn't matter where you go, and you don't necessarily have to be in a dark park or anything. You're constantly thinking the world's a dangerous place, somebody's going to hurt me. And that'd be a hard place to be, wouldn't it, on a constant level? And not, let alone what it's doing to your body, like your adrenals, your adrenaline's kind of going all the time. And this is where you can get adrenal burnout. Okay. So, Okay, so what happens is our negative beliefs, such as that, shifts our nervous system into fight, flight, and freeze. The result is a series of biological effects which determine our next perceptions, intelligence, ADD. Okay, I'd be looking at what their birth was like. Okay, because if a child's got ADD, attention deficit disorder, frontal lobe's not working, I'd be looking at was mum going through a lot of trauma in utero, so that when they were in utero, that the baby's picking up on that fear, and the baby can absolutely have an effect on when they're born too. So if they're already in fight and flight and they're picking up on fear, what's the belief possible? The world's a dangerous place. I don't want to go out there. Okay, and it wouldn't take much. And the baby, and I've found this out through doing matrix with people in utero, the baby absolutely determines whether they're going to be born or not. Okay, and then you end up with a cesarean or a forceps, and then they come out, and typically forceps delivery, I need people to pull me out of situations, typical belief, and I put a lot of pressure on myself. Okay. So, in fact, and you don't need to remember this, I just want to tell you how biologically this affects you, or can affect you. When you're in that response, the amygdala responds to the emotional memory, and then, and when triggered, sends a signal to the hypothalamus. Through a series of hormonal messages between the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenals, the result is a release of adrenaline, blood sugars, cortisol into the bloodstream. Okay, what does that affect? Blood pressure, heart rate, body temperature, stress levels, blood acidity, adrenal and thyroid function, immune function, cellular and DNA behaviour, intelligence, cognitive function, digestion. From a metamedicine point of view, if you have a client come to you with a stomach problem, I'm automatically looking for when did you have an incident where it was hard to digest the information. Okay, if there's something wrong like reflux, something like that, information that you couldn't swallow, there will be a shock conflict where there was an information that you couldn't swallow. Okay, very metaphorical of what we say.